Hello. In this video, we'll be going over IRS Form 2159, Payroll Deduction Agreement. So this is a deduction agreement from your payroll based on an agreement put into place between yourself, the IRS, and your employer. The most common reason people use this is because it's a convenient way to set up an installment agreement where you don't have to make payments from your bank account. You don't have to worry about, the impact to your checkbook. The payments are automatically paid as part of your payroll, so you get whatever is left over to pay your living expenses. Meanwhile, the IRS does get their money up front. So this is one of several ways that the IRS will help you set up an installment agreement. There is a user fee for setting up the installment agreement, and the most recent update is that the user fee is the same for payroll deduction as it is for making payments by check. If you want the absolute cheapest way to set up an installment agreement, then you can do what's called a direct debit option. So that would be having the IRS take the money straight out of your bank account on a set schedule every month. And you can request that option as part of your installment agreement request. So, and finally, last administrative note there, if you're a low-income taxpayer, you may be eligible for a reduced installment agreement user fee, even with the payroll deduction agreement. So this is a pretty straightforward form to complete. We did a video on this a couple years ago, but this is the most recent version of that form. So if the IRS gives you this form to complete, you're basically completing the information, or the IRS may have completed this for you. So information to the employer, giving the employer instructions on how much to take out of a regular paycheck, and then the rest. So we're going to go through this. Now, the way this form is set up on the IRS website is there's 3 versions of this form. They're identical. So you complete one version basically. So we're going to go through that. That's page 1. Page 2 is blank. There's another copy of this. On page 4, there are instructions to the employer. So we'll go over this really briefly, and then we'll go back and cover the form. So once the employer receives this, then the employer is also supposed to put in the contact information for a contact person, indicate when they will forward the payments to the IRS, because that is an employer responsibility, sign and date the form, and then return the parts of the form that were requested on the letter to the employee. You can either give them to the employee or to the IRS, but there is an IRS address on the letter that the employee receives so that you can forward it to the correct place. And then there's some instructions on how to make payments. You would deduct the amount that your employee agreed to, then write out a check to the United States Treasury with the employer's name and Social Security on the payment so that they can get credit for that payment, and then send that money to the IRS using the mailing address. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. It's the least convenient option for probably a taxpayer, the IRS, and an employer, which is why the setup fee is higher. But it is something that the IRS does offer. Now, on the last page, instructions to the taxpayer. Basically, we're going to go over all of this, and this is the amount this is the stuff that you would fill in on the form. So as you can see, part 3, that's the taxpayer's copy. So when you complete these forms, part 2 is the employer's copy, and then part 1 is the part that goes to the IRS. So we're going to put John Doe's employer information. we're just putting in this information as it pertains to John Doe. Let's just say that his wife, Mary Jane Doe, we'll put the last 4 of her social. And then let's say, based on payment schedule, week, 2 weeks, monthly payments, other. So I'll pause right here. There is a distinction between bi-weekly and semi-monthly payments. So be sure you as the employee or you as the employer understand the difference. Employers probably do since they run payroll on that schedule, but employees may not. So semi-monthly means twice a month. For example, the federal government or the military in particular, 1st and the 15th. Those are scheduled pay dates from now until infinity, whether you deserve the paycheck or not. 1st and the 15th of every month. Conversely, bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. So the difference is a semi-monthly payroll has 24 pay periods in a year. Bi-weekly means that there's 26 payments. So there's an extra 2 payment periods throughout the year. So let's just say that John Doe is every 2 weeks, so bi-weekly. If he was semi-monthly, he would write semi-monthly. We'll just do the semi-monthly option since I already wrote it in. So date by which the payments will be sent, let's just say that 20th of the month, beginning on, at the time we're recording this, it's May 1st, 2026. So let's just say we're gonna do that, and we'll just put president. Now over here, this is the debit payment self-identifier. So, probably the most common reason that an employee or a taxpayer may have payroll deductions is because they're not able to make debit payments. So if you are able to make debit payments, then leave that blank. But you would check that box just to make, if you do, if you are not able to make that direct debit payments. So we're going to write form numbers for the kinds of taxes. So most taxpayers, their tax issues really are on Form 1040 returns. And let's just say this is from tax periods 2023 to 2024 as of, let's see, 4/15/2026, John Doe owes $10,000. So, and we'll just say that he's paid semi-monthly. And he is going to have $500 taken from his wages beginning on May 20th, 2026 and paid by the employer to the IRS until the total tax bill is paid in full. I also agree and authorize decision to be increased or decreased as follows. So obviously, if you already have an existing agreement and you want to increase it or decrease it, then you would complete the form again. If this is your first issue, then you would not have you wouldn't have a prior payment to increase or decrease from. So then if you're resolving this with IRS, there may be additional terms, taxpayer signature, spouse signature. And then this is for the IRS use only. This basically helps the IRS update the taxpayer file based on, all the different parts of the collection cycle. So like the collection statutory end date, whether or not a tax lien has been filed, may be filed, has been filed, will be filed, and then different reviews as appropriate. Those are all basically IRS procedures, so you don't need to worry about that. Going over the fine print, so you do have to pay the $178 user fee to set up a direct debit. Low-income taxpayers may be eligible for a reduced fee that can be completely waived, but the user fee comes out first. So the first $500 payment is going to consist of $178 of the user fee, and then the remaining $322 will go towards the tax. So if, as long as the payments keep being made, the installment agreement remains intact. If for some reason you don't make those payments, if there's other taxes that you blow off, or if you're not providing financial information as the IRS requests it, sometimes they'll send information requests to just stay on top of your installment agreement. For example, if you come into a banner year and you're able to afford more or a higher payment, the IRS may come in and say, okay, let's take a look at your financials. Let's see if we can increase your payments. So the IRS may choose to file a notice of federal tax lien if one has not already been filed, but they will not for the individual shared responsibility payment under the Affordable Care Act. So that's really not even an issue anymore. That was when people used to have to have insurance, or else they pay a penalty. So that hasn't been in place for well over a decade. So signing this form, the IRS is allowed to contact third parties and discuss your tax information to process payments, administer the agreement, so on and so forth. So I think we covered pretty much everything. This would be a blank that the IRS would fill in, basically to say, contact this IRS office if you need assistance. But there is a contact information for people that need information on setting up their account or making adjustments to their payroll deduction. So I think that covers it for the payroll deduction agreement. We'll put links in the show notes to the article that we recently updated on this, as well as articles and videos that we've created on about other forms and topics that may be pertinent here. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.